Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm an affiliate with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people know that life is better when you're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. We only get one body while we're here. We have to take care of it. We have to do the right things. And while we're here, we need to be joyful and spread some light and love in this world. And so these videos are just moments in time that I get to capture a little bit about the people that I'm talking with and interviewing, because there are so many people with so many different stories, so many backgrounds, and we have to stay open-minded and learn from everyone. And so I'm so honored to be in this position where I know a lot of really cool people that have impacted the world in really great ways. And one of those people is my friend, Amy Welker. And I've known Amy for quite a few years now. And we used to dance together in my Zumba class before she hurt her foot or her leg. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but she ran off, limping off, I guess would be technically appropriate, and started doing all these other things in life. And now here you are, Amy, not even Amy Welker anymore, but known as Amy Kvell, which is Yiddish for jubilant joy. And it seems as if the person that you were before has transformed into a whole new you that is really just capturing the joy within you. And you have your own way of sharing that joy with other people because you've become an author with a published book called Small Hinges Move Big Doors. So Amy, welcome. And I am looking forward to you sharing some of your story with whoever happens to be watching this right now. So tell us a little bit about you and who you were before this book came about.
Oh, I am a pastor's wife to Jason Welker, and we've been married for 15 years now. Actually, I lied. I think it's 18 years. Also, like, wait a minute, reverse. 18 years. He'll be like, catch me on that. But and I have 3 girls who all love to sing and dance and do musical theater like I do. And so that's something that we all have in common. There's always a dinner and a show at my house. I love cooking healthy and fun meals for friends to come over. And then there's always a show from the Welker girls. And so that's always a blast. And it's like now people
Do they charge admission or is this like a free show?
Dessert. You always have to bring the dessert because I'm not really big on sugar and gluten. So like people, when they come over, they're like, what can I bring? I'm always like, bring the dessert because I don't do dessert real well. Fresh fruit will be what you get if you come with me. So yeah, so that's kind of fun. And I really love photography. I had my own photography business and I keep doing it as a hobby. But now that I've been doing more motivational speaking and doing more book writing and things like that, I'm finding myself, I had to pick and choose my battles on what I wanted to do for a living. But those are some of the fun things that I enjoy. And being a professional actress has definitely helped me in the people skills and being able to connect and make people feel welcome. So that's been cool.
Well, just give us one little brief anecdote about that. You were a professional actress, and where was that? And what was something that you did that now has, been that springboard into this today?
Yeah, so I graduated with a musical theater degree from Missouri State University. It was actually Southwest Missouri State University.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah. But it was funny. I graduated from that school and my husband graduated from Missouri State University the next semester. So that's kind of something funny from both of us. But yeah, so our last show together, my husband was an actor also. We both did the musical Grease at a dinner theater company in Wichita, Kansas. And so he was Eugene the Nerd and I was Jan, one of the Pink Ladies. And that was our last gig that we did as professionals. But that helped us to know we wanted to go into youth ministry because there was a bunch of high schoolers from the community. And we were kind of praying through where God was guiding us to seminary. And Jason was like, I feel very called to work with students. And I'd always felt called to do that. And so then we started our ministry about 20 years ago doing that, which then propelled me to get these opportunities to work with all different family groups and different people. And like you said, we've been blessed to be surrounded by lots of amazing people. So we have great stories to share.
Yeah.
And so that's where this book came from, is all those small groups with teenage girls and women and families. my story would not have been written with all of those without those opportunities.
And so then one day you woke up and said, wow, I've had some really cool things happen in my life. I think I'll write a book.
Yeah, actually, it kind of, and we call it the download as authors. We call it the
Right.
download,
Sure.
where you sit down, and I was actually having quiet time with God. And this was about 5 years ago, 2019. And I sat down and I was just doing my quiet time. And then all of a sudden, God was just like, you have a story to tell. Like, what would you tell? And all of a sudden, I had every chapter of the book just kind of lined out. And so then for a year straight, I took every chapter and I would write it on a Thursday, put it up on Facebook Live and teach it, because I'm better in person than I am a writer. And then I would watch it, fill in the blanks of what I didn't have. And then I had a whole bunch of Thursdays to choose from. And that's how I made the Hinges and Small Hinges Move Big Doors.
So let's talk about the small hinges. So, you know that I work with people on helping them with nutrition and, through my Zumba classes on making one simple change at a time, just one simple change at a time. And so my focus areas are not necessarily what yours are in this book, but can you just talk a little bit about that whole theory behind these giant doors that cannot open without the hinges, and they can be very small but do big work. So tell us a little bit about that and how you came up with that idea.
Sure, totally. So small hinges move big doors. You can't like despise the small beginnings. You have to rejoice in them and see how small moves can help you have a big impact. So once you see the small hinges effects and how it feels in your life, you feel more confident and encouraged to connect and move forward with your family and the people around you. And it's also like with my book specifically, since I have a life and wellness, I'm a life and wellness coach background, and I'm also a chaplain. So I'm like trained in other things. So I have all this training of like counseling mixed with life coaching and wellness. My book is a Christian living guide where you think of small hinges as daily things we can do to encourage health, which fits why we're connected, spiritual well-being, that also connects us, our families and our community. So it's just that being consistent with these small hinges allows us to move the big doors. And then we can't, help but be excited about the movement we're seeing. And those big doors just continue to go from there. But it's just getting those doors to move. Sometimes the door's like off on the side. I always joke, I'm like, is your door even connected anymore? Well, then let's work on that first. And then we'll work on how well the hinge is working,
Right. And what I love about when people write from their own personal experience, then it's what worked for you, but people reading it might find that all of it makes sense.
Yeah.
Or one sentence makes sense to them. And whatever that is, that might be the small hinge for them to get that particular door opened, because I know that you do talk about so many different topics, like taking care of our bodies, which is one of my main concerns for people, is helping them do that. But also about relationships with your family, as you mentioned. And I'm just wondering, is there a specific part of the book that is the favorite of yours that you feel like, this is the one that when I wrote it, it just felt right? You know what I mean? Like from the beginning to the end.
Right. My favorite, I believe I have the book right here. I got to make sure I get the hinge correct. Well, here's the book if you want to see it. There it is.
Yep.
Small Hinges Move Big Doors. It is hinge number 5, I believe. Let me glance real quick here. It'll take me 1 second. Yeah. Dealing with temptation, because that's one topic nobody wants to touch with a 10-foot pole, because as soon as you do, it's reflecting on you, right? If you're a good teacher, you should be able to be transparent about how you also deal with those things, but you have to be willing to go there. And I was totally willing to go there.
Is this the chapter that's about the ice cream? I will say that when I was reading this chapter, spoiler alert, there is a chapter about sneaking into the ice cream section of the grocery store and you eating it in your car and having the leftover residue around your mouth as you spoke with a neighbor that you didn't even realize it was there. And your husband saw the ring around your mouth because you didn't have a spoon.
I didn't have a spoon, and I was that desperate.
Ice cream like this. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, what, got milk? Well, no, it was like, hey, Amy, you got ice cream?
That temptation all over your face, and you try to hide it and act like that's not something everyone struggles with. Yeah, I totally did. And I love that because there's so many moments like that in our lives, Julie, that we mess up and we can either look at that and feel shame and guilt and carry that around for the rest of our lives, which then affects the way we eat, the way we exercise, and the way we treat people. Shame and guilt affects all that. Or we can just put it out there for the world to see in a book, or just sharing with someone who maybe is struggling too, or just sharing it with God and saying like, hey, I'm aware of what I've done. I need to ask for forgiveness for that. I need to deal with that. Or if you're not a faith believing person, like journaling it out, just getting it out so that you're not like holding it in, makes huge differences. And I learned that that transparency is what connects us as human beings.
Absolutely, because there are so many times that in today's world, everything is filtered and compared and polished, and it's all shiny and bright. And, there are very few people out there living authentically through social media or out in public. And, I know that this has been an ongoing thing for ages and ages, that you don't air your dirty laundry in public, right? That's what they all have said all along. But now it's even more so because especially young people, they're comparing their lives to what's out there. And if you don't feel like you're enough, you don't think you're bright, shiny, polished enough for whatever it is, then you don't want to get out there. But for those people who have the guts to just be authentic and vulnerable, sometimes I find that I might be struggling with whatever it is. And I feel like I don't want to bore people with my issues. But whenever I do throw it out there, even as a question, like, I'm really having trouble with XYZ. Can't quite get it together. Can anybody give me some recommendations? Then that is a connecting point, because they're like, oh, I had no idea that you actually had an issue with this. I've had this for ages or whatever. So then that's another way, like you said, to connect those dots between people. And I find that, relationships aren't just anything. They're pretty much everything. That's, the whole purpose of being here in community is having those relationships with people. So tell us a little bit more about your book and how that is coming through your words, and who your target reader is. Who's your target audience for this book and why?
Yeah. So my target audience for my book is really, it's because I've been working with youth for so long. I had to really think about that, because I'm like, am I writing for teens? Am I writing for women? So I would really say this is really applicable for anyone that's like 21 and older, because you're going to get the most out of the book, right? But my teenage girls are so excited about getting this book. And my daughter, Vivi, is reading it right now, which is really funny to hear your daughter comment on her mom's perspective. She's like, you say this all the time. I'm like, yeah, I know. And that's, if you know me and you read the book, you're going to hear my voice saying these things and laugh. That's just what happens. But if you don't know me, I hope it becomes a new familiar voice to you as you read the book, and it's encouraging to you as I am in real life. That's the goal, right? There's a little Amy Kvell going, you got this because God's got this and you've got this and it's going to be okay. Let's find some joy, little life coach in a book. But yeah, so that's who it's for. It's geared for mostly women because it comes from a woman perspective. But I have had a couple men pick up the book and they have really enjoyed it because it's given them an insight to a woman's perspective. And it's also got some very good life coaching stuff in it that anybody can apply to their lives, regardless. And so that was important to me too. And I also, something that's interesting is the person who edited my book. She's very open in her spirituality. So she's not just focused on Christianity. So she is more like just kind of like, she believes in a higher power and that kind of thing. But she's like, not this like, have to be a church every Sunday kind of gal. And I chose her on purpose because I really love her heart for keeping things like, here, did you ever think about this? Here's an open perspective.
Mhm.
And I needed that in my writing because I wanted all people to be able to pick up the book and be able to see how to apply it. Does that make sense?
Right. No, I think that's important because I think it is imperative that we respect everyone's beliefs,
Right.
opinions, and perspectives. And just like I've been posting all kinds of things about how important I believe all books are, and that somebody could pick up your book and go, ugh, I don't want to read this. It's, about this. But you know what? If somebody picks it up, as I said, there might be one sentence in there that makes sense. And so we really have to look at the whole picture and find people where they are and let them decide what feels right, what resonates for the truth in your own body, in your own soul. And something that you've said in your book might be exactly the piece that needs to fill in that spot in the soul.
Right.
It might be the tiny hinge for a big door for somebody. I haven't read the whole book yet, but when this gets published, I will have already read the book. I just started it the other day when we're recording this. And I've already found so many connecting points with things that I go, oh yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. And so I know there will be others.
Right. People have called it very practical. Like the people that have responded to reviewing my book, and I've had all different ages and all different women from all over the US. And they've all said, wow, it's just really practical. And something that was really important to me was like, how is this relevant to today's society? And people are looking for ways to reconnect in the society. We've had all this isolation and fear, and the book just brings like a new twist on ways to find joy and to build community again. And like each hinge gives you ways you can easily apply the hinge to your life, whether you're a Christian or not, like we talked about. And each chapter is a helpful hint to life. We've got the hinge hacks in there. And those hinge hacks, it's like, even if you just picked up the book and decide to flip through the book, there is a journal page so you can process. That's that life coaching in me. I want to give you a space to process.
Right, which I think is really important for the book, that it makes it more of a tool than just a resource. And so somebody can get a pen out and make notes, because sometimes things really make more sense when we write it down.
Yes. And there's journal prompts to go with whatever hinge it is. Instead of chapters, we have hinges. And so you can pick up the book and pick hinge number 8 today because that's how you're feeling, or you can read the book all the way through. So that kind of makes it unique in that way. There's a place where you got to draw a door. I'm a very visual person. There's pictures. Right. I love photography. So I'm going to put pictures in my book that help people visually see. My friend called it the best friend of an ADHD person. And I laughed. I said, why? She goes, because I love the fact, Amy, that there's this like hinge hack over here and a recipe over here. And then I'm going to draw and I'm going to circle and then I'm going to read something really meaty that's going to like knock me off my socks. And then it's over in 4 pages for that day so that I can like go do something else. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome.
Right.
So yeah,
one hinge at a time. One hinge at a time.
One hinge at a time.
So I guess I just want to have the last 2 minutes here of our conversation be whatever you want to share with the viewer who happens to be watching this.
I think what's special.
First, you can get the book on Amazon.
There you go.
I'll include the link below. So yes, for sure.
Yes, for sure. And if you're local, because I'm all about like helping support local businesses. I do have like a brick and mortars. So I have a brick and Cold Jacks is carrying it. And then also the Giving Tree in Deloge. And then in St. Louis, it's the Novel Neighbor. And they're a really cool bookstore, and they're very eclectic. And I love that too. And so those are all locations. It's funny that God has placed my book in a boutique, a coffee shop, and in an indie bookstore in Webster.
All 3 things that connect with you.
Yes, exactly. And then, the Giving Tree I love because their whole aspect is like, And that's part of that's important about my book is community. So I'm all about meeting people and supporting them. And so the fact that my book is in weird places, like fits me to a T. We have Cold Jacks. I love sitting down and having a coffee and like thinking and sharing ideas with people. And so I actually have a sample copy that if you're drinking coffee and you went to sit down and kind of sample the book while you're having coffee, it's there. And I love that. The Giving Tree, because everything they do goes back into the community. You know, it helps the Pregnancy Resource Center. It helps women in Africa. It like helps all these different people. And so they were like, we want your book because we want to help spread the message of joy. And I'm like, that's awesome. So those are 3 people that I'm really excited. And even CJ Lighting next door to Cold Jacks, they bought some of the books to hold there because they want to share the message of joy. So go in and see them and you can find my book there. So it's been a really fun like process seeing how different people connect into this message, but it's catching on like wildfire. And I honestly think, like you said, the best thing I can tell you is just buy it, pick it up and read it. And I'm not saying it because I wrote it, but it's because it's like all the good stuff in one spot.
That's great.
That's the best way I can describe it.
I love that you had a plan, you put it into action, and now people are getting to share it and decide what they're going to take from it and move forward. So thank you for bringing some joy into the world. And I appreciate you, Amy Kvell. Amy
That's right.
Welker.
I'm also available for speaking. I think I didn't mention that, just
Okay,
for
sure.
motivational speaking for women conferences. I plan a big women's retreat every year called Small Hinges Retreats. We've sold out already this next 2024, but 2025 will be opening up before you know it. And so that's also my heart, is that I love getting and helping people in their businesses to bring joy in. And so that's something else that I'm available for.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for having me.